Now, there are many people out there currently right now who are looking for new jobs, trying to get new ventures and progress into something better. But the problem they're facing is the fact that they, number one, can't secure an interview, but number two, don't actually pass the interview stages. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how you can actually pass your interview. Now, what qualifies me to talk about this? Well, number one, I've had many interviews in my lifetime. But number two, I've had multiple opportunities to be on an interview panel to actually assess people to see if they're worthy of getting the position or role. And number three, I'm a qualified and trained coach, and I've helped multiple different people along their careers in order for them to secure jobs. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to get straight into the video. Now, here's a quick disclaimer. This is mainly for people who are looking for a permanent position within the corporate space or for contractors usually working within the public sector. The first thing I want to say is to make sure that you actually apply for a role that you're interested in. And if not just that, apply for something that your skills support, your experience and expertise supports. Because really and truly, when it comes down to the interview, or even when it comes down to the submission of your application, the recruiters can see BS. They can see if it's authentic or genuine. Thereby, you need to improve your chances by applying for something that makes sense for you. And so if you haven't done some sort of assessment over your skills, the sort of jobs you've been in, what sort of like things that you offer, then maybe sit down and do that first before you start looking at the job market. The second thing that you should do is broken down into two different parts. So the first part is to really understand the job description. Okay, so usually in a job description, there is some sort of executive summary. You know, there's roles and responsibilities, accountabilities, skills required, and desirables as well. Really try to dissect it so you can understand what sort of things you would be doing, or at least how you would provide value in that workspace. And so don't overlook any words. Don't try to not understand the word. Understand what key responsibilities you're providing. Are you in a support position? Are you in a senior managerial position? Are you delivering? Is it a business as usual style thing? These are all really useful stuff. And for those of you who are familiar with MSP, so managing successful programs, you'll understand the variation between project delivery or program delivery and business as usual operations, etc., etc. So understand what the delineation is in order for you to understand where you're positioned if you are successful in that position. The second thing I'd say is to set up some sort of briefing call with the hiring manager. So again, when you apply for different positions, there's usually someone you can contact. So contact that person and get ready to really go through some of the following things. Number one, you want to understand the context of the organization. Number two, you want to be clear about the aims and objectives. So what is it that the team is trying to do? What is it that is setting their vision and objectives? And what does that mean for you in this position? Number three, you really want to understand what's already been done. So what's been successful? What hasn't been successful? And number four, that really gives you a strong idea in terms of where you may be positioned, because the next thing is to determine where you sit in the organogram. Where do you sit in the team? Who is supporting you? Who is line managing you? Who is working with you? All these things create a picture, because if you don't have that initial picture, then it's quite difficult to really imagine what you would be doing. Because think about it. Those people who just apply versus those people who get that information firsthand are not only just getting information, but they're getting a vibe. They're getting a feeling from the hiring manager. They're getting insights. And this is not cheating on anything. This is just you having a better understanding. And you're in your rights to do this. So make sure you set up some sort of briefing call with the hiring manager. Now, please note, they may ask you about your experiences. They may ask you about your expertise. They may even ask you what best positions you to be in this role. So be ready to answer those questions. But I'll cover some of that later on. The third thing I'd like to add to this bit is to make sure that you read any sort of supporting material. Okay, so sometimes these organizations or hiring managers give additional material, such as websites to read or documents to read or policies to read. Make sure you read it. Okay, so it's not about reading everything necessarily, but you want to have a good enough understanding or idea of the strategic aims. It doesn't really matter if you're in an admin position or supporting position or whatever it may be. And I don't want to discriminate, because sometimes there are some organizations that like to do that. The better you understand, the more positioned you are, because you start to see opportunities, whether that's in the interview or when you actually get the role. So have a good idea of what the strategic aims are. Now, of course, you don't want to be so invested to the point where, God forbid you didn't get the interview, you felt like you've wasted time, but you have to have this genuine want to understand, because that will put you in good positions for other sort of things that you may apply for. So it's good practice to have anyway, just to really understand what the strategic aims are. The third thing on this list is to make sure that you create and develop your own type of questions. And where do you get these questions from? Well, if you're lucky enough or you have the opportunity, you're going to get these questions from the briefing session that you've had. And you may have been smart enough to write notes or had the chance to write notes. But two, you're also going to extract questions from the job description. Now, really and truly, as a hiring manager or somebody on the panel, where are they getting their questions from? It's either from asking someone else who's been in the job already or is in the job. They're probably going to get it from the job description. They're probably going to check online, or they're probably going to think of them logically. And so if they're doing some of those things, let's say, for example, thinking of them logically, you could follow that logic too, because it's logic. And so utilize the job spec and the briefing call as an opportunity to think of some questions. And some of those questions may be things like, why do you want the role? What makes you best suited for the role? What are the top 3 skills that this role, let's say, for example, project manager, needs in order for them to be successful? Give me a time where you've actually delivered a project. What were some of the challenges? Give me a time where you've dealt with a very challenging project that was complex and ambiguous by nature. How did you overcome it? Give me an example of where you've led a team or developed a team. What were the results? These are all sort of like de facto key foundational questions you need to answer in order for you to be at least competent or confident when it comes to your interview. And again, if you want a list of questions, then leave it in the comments below, and maybe, just maybe, I'll provide it for you. Before we continue, I want to know, what's the one interview tip that you would give to somebody else? Leave your comments below. The next thing from that is to practice the questions, okay? So again, many of you know the acronym STAR. So when you're answering different questions, make sure you talk about the situation, talk about the task that you had to complete. What was the action? What was the result? Okay, so that's STAR. Sometimes you can even add an L, which talks about the learning. So really important to do, because if you can show the learning that you got from it, then it shows that you've embedded that practice into your mindset, into your psyche as well. Now, when you're answering these questions, when you're practicing these questions, do this in front of someone who's objective. Do this in front of someone who may be versed in the field. Maybe use a coach to help you do this as well. You don't need someone else. It's helpful. What you can do, or if you're rushed for time, you can answer these questions and record them and basically listen to them to hear how you've messed up and really identify how you can improve based on rhythm, speed, accuracy of answer, etc., etc. What you're trying to pinpoint here is waffle. You want to reduce the waffle, okay? You want to be as succinct as possible. You don't want to create too much context and too much detail that the person gets bored, but you want to provide enough so you answer the question. So when it comes to answering these questions, don't be afraid, in practice at least, to ask again for clarification. Really, really important stuff. And of course, you've come to interview day. So the next thing to think about is basically making sure that your presence is on point. So there are some things you can do slightly beforehand. Now, what I've done in the past is sometimes I'll listen to Calm. I'll listen to some meditation for about 2 to 5 minutes to just get my heart rate slow, okay, and not beating really fast. And really get into a point where I'm doing deep breathing exercises. It helps just slow things down. Now, some people like to be really sort of like super prepared and ready half an hour before. For me, I like to walk into it. I like to waltz into it. So sometimes I give myself 5 to 10 minutes to prepare. And so you have to decide what is best for you as a person. But I feel like sometimes when I give myself too much time, I start to get nervous unnecessarily. What you want to make sure that you do during the interview is smile, okay? So consciously smile. Don't forget to smile. You don't want to look like a psycho, but you still want to make sure that you're smiling because, again, there is going to be opinions formed in the first couple of seconds. They're going to pick up if you're confident, if you're ready, if you have a certain energy, okay? As much as it is about answering the questions direct, it's also about vibe, okay? You also want to make sure that you're dressed smart. This is an interview, shirt, dress, whatever it may be for you. Make sure that your hair is on point, whatever that means for you. Make sure that you're sitting up and you're not slouching and you're not looking around consistently. Try to maintain eye contact with the individual. And if that's too much for you, sometimes what you can do, especially if it's a virtual interview, is that you can cover the sort of screen like with some white paper so you can still see their head movement and stuff, but it at least gives you a sense of confidence, reassurance, and safety because you want to create that psychological safety as well. In addition, don't use colloquial language or jargon. Make sure to pause if you need to and have a glass of water just to support you if you need some time to think about something or to clear your throat or if your throat is actually getting dry. So these are some things that you can do to at least position yourself for better success. Now, of course, these are suggestions. These aren't de facto guaranteed ways to get you an interview or pass the interview. But I believe, at least for myself and for other people, it can help. The final thing I'll say is, don't feel like you have to ask a question. I know people have said, oh, you have to ask at least 2 questions at the end. But make sure you have some genuine questions you want to ask. Maybe you want to ask something about the expectations, about the culture. Is there learning and development? What do you expect in the first 90 days, 60 days, or 30 days of employment? So these are some things you could ask. And that's it, my friends. That's everything I have on how to pass an interview successfully. Now, if you like topics like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.